Hi, this is State Senator Tom George. Welcome to my program, Current Events. Today I have with me Randy Case. Randy, you are an architect from Battle Creek.
I am.
And you are involved in restoring a covered bridge in southwest Michigan, which we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But first I want you to tell me just a little bit about your background, about yourself.
Okay. I have a degree in architecture from the U of M, and it's a master's degree. And then through time, what I've done is I've developed preservation as a portion of my practice. I started in 1981 in my own practice, and one of the reasons I went out on my own is to do rehabilitation of historic structures. That's kind of one of the bases that our office does. And so through the years, the science of preservation has come leaps and bounds ahead of where it was back in the 80s. It's much more scientific at this point, and of course that has developed from a lot of other people that started doing it very early and worked through the process. Our practice is fairly broad. We do commercial projects and different things, and we specialize kind of in adaptive reuse, and preservation is like our main focus.
Now we've done a lot of that in Kalamazoo, you know, downtown Kalamazoo. We have a historic preservation districts. Have you done work in Kalamazoo County?
I've done a little bit in Kalamazoo. I've done mostly studies, and I know that there are a lot of lofts and apartments that have been built and condominiums that have been built downtown in Kalamazoo, and that's been flourishing, and we in Battle Creek have been trying to do that as well. We just started some things like that with some condos and things, and so we've been kind of following the lead of Kalamazoo and how they've been approaching things.
Now tell me how you got into covered bridge restoration.
Well, that's an interesting one. I have a background in preservation and a certified historic architect, and so I think what happened is the St. Joe Road Commission just did some research to find out who around did this kind of work. I'm not a specialist in covered bridges, and there probably are some people out east that maybe specialize in covered bridges, but I don't know if there are any in Michigan. And so I was contacted by the St. Joe County Road Commission to take a look at this, and I brought a team member along with me, Tom Neal from Neal Civic Structural Engineers from Kalamazoo, because of his expertise with timber structures. And so he's a major part of our team involving the Langley Bridge.
And so what we're talking about is the restoration or preservation of the Langley Bridge, which is a covered bridge, not in Kalamazoo County, it's in St. Joe County. Tell me a little bit about the bridge.
Well, it was built in late 1800s, I think it's 1866, and then Sturgis created a dam which raised the water level.
It's over the St. Joe River?
And it is the longest bridge of the covered nature in Michigan. I believe it's 292 feet. What happened when they dammed the river, they had to build a causeway out because the river got so wide it couldn't possibly span that. So what they did is that was another project that they developed through time, and they raised it 8 feet. And when they did that,
they raised the bridge.
That's correct.
8 feet to make up for the widening of the river.
Right. Well, because of the water level raised, probably 5 to 6 feet from where we can stand. It's about 24 inches clear from the water to the deck of the bridge now. And so anyway, this bridge is a wooden structure, and it's built of a Howe truss, which is a full height truss. Each wall of the bridge is probably 10 to, well, it's actually 12 feet tall, and a series of X's like this, and at each point where they come together is a steel rod that ties it to the bottom. At the bottom of that is a cast iron piece called a prism, which transfers the forces. And so the interesting thing about covered bridges is typically their walls are structural, so they can be very thin underneath, but the structure is the side, so it's kind of going between two structural elements, and then they just put siding on it. So that is how they include the siding. So what happened is in 1950, there was some damage in the wood on the structure underneath, and so they totally rebuilt the structure. And they went, structurally kind of wild. They built concrete caissons that were like outriggers. If you think of a Hawaiian canoe that sticks way out on the side, they actually put steel I-beams that are very deep, very strong elements that stuck way out beyond the bridge. And then they set the historic bridge on top of this. So there's a steel structure going through the whole undercarriage. And so in a purist's mind, a preservation approach, this was absolutely the wrong thing to do because it changed the way it looked. But the structure on top of that was still historic, and it still was the longest bridge, and it was this whole romantic feeling of the wooden covered bridge that people love to go through. And actually in Centerville, I think it's the city logo, and I think St. Joe County uses it, and everybody thinks fondly of the Langley Bridge.
Who owns the bridge?
The St. Joe County Road Commission services it, so I'm assuming that that's the way it's controlled. MDOT has been involved with the work that we have, so there's some, because of its roadways and so forth. So ownership is kind of always interesting with bridges.
So it sounds like it's managed by the county and MDOT. And so it was built in the 1860s. It was raised several feet after the dam on the St. Joe River, and then in the 1950s it was given a steel undercarriage.
Right.
Now, what brings you into the picture today?
Okay. Well, there's one more step that we haven't talked about. In 1974, they also did another kind of what they called a restoration, and they went through and added some more steel members. I think probably some corrosion got to it on one side, and so they added some channels on the outside and put some metal flashing to protect it on the south side. Typically, you get more wind and rain and sun on the south side versus the north side, and so that had weathered, and the siding had kind of gone bad on that side as well. So, and also they raised the inside of the bridge a little bit more to get more head clearance, and they added some major beams, like 3 levels of wood, to raise the roof a little bit more, which we're a little more concerned about because it allows larger vehicles to go through, and it's not really rated for a lot of the structure that it, it's not rated for the weight that goes across it at this point in time. So anyway, how we got involved with it is a couple things happened. The road surface, they had blacktopped over the original wood. It was breaking up, and obviously that showed that there was a lot of deterioration and some vibration. It had sagged a little bit. There was a lot of rot on the siding. The roofing was kind of peeling up, and actually somebody hit it last winter on the side and canted it. It kind of twisted the whole structure from the accident to hit the side. So a lot of things caused us to be involved. It became quite complex about what was happening. It wasn't just sagging or whatever, it's twisting, sagging, and all kinds of things. So the idea for us was to stabilize the bridge and preserve its historic character.
Now, as a preservationist, you're called in then to work on it. Is your duty to preserve it to the 1974 version, or the 1950 version, or the 1866 version?
Okay. Well, that's kind of the terminology. Preservation is stabilizing it in its present state. Rehabilitation is an approach that we're using. So you take the historic features that are significant and rehab those to their time period. And the new features that we can't get rid of, we can't really take these bivalons out and these large structural elements, so we stabilize those to contemporary standards. Restoration would be bringing it back to the 1866 period, and what you have to do there is remove all inappropriate material. So we'd have to tear the whole thing out and then reinstall it. I mean, I think everybody would love to do that, but it's so cost prohibitive that
That's
we
not
didn't